have two very important members of our community. We have Duron Chavis and Pastor James Wilkins. Duron Chavis is a community activist and founder of Richmond Noir Market, McDonough Community Garden, and the Summer Health and Wellness Festival. Happily Natural Day. Duron was shot 3 times at a block party in Richmond and at the age of 17. He now works for Richmond Department of Social Services in the Economic Independence Division. He is the father of 3 young boys and is a native of Richmond, Virginia. Let's give it up for Mr. Duron Chavis. Next, we have Pastor James Wilkins. He is the pastor of Nehemiah House of Prayer and also the grandfather of Shardell Walton, who was a victim of gun violence in the summer of 2012. He is here today as one who has been on both sides of gun violence, and he comes today joining with so many others as a voice against gun violence. Let's give it up for Pastor James Wilkins. All right, I guess both of you can start with some of your experiences and some things that you wanted to change, and that you changed.
Tell your story.
Oh, yes, tell your story.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm happy to see some of the young folks here at the UP Summit. A little bit about me, I guess. Tell the story. I'm from Richmond. I grew up in Southside. I went to Georgia High School. When I was 16, 17, I was really into music, a lot of spoken word, rapping, hip hop, things like that. And a lot of my friends, we would go out to different events, clubs and parties and rap. We freestyle, battle, and all that different type of stuff. So one night, we were in communities in Southwood walking, and another group of my friends rode up and asked me if I wanted to go to a block party in Chesterfield. And what struck out to me was that I had a voice in my spirit that was telling me, nah, you should just go home, you should just go to your house, just continue doing what you was already doing. But my friend was like, nah, man, we gotta go, man, it's gonna be off the chain, man, there's gonna be girls there, man, we're gonna get on the mic, we're gonna rip it, it's gonna be just, we're gonna tear it down. And, I was like, I don't know, and finally I caved in. And I went, I decided to go, and the whole time I'm in the car, I was thinking like, man, this is a bad decision. But there was nothing really to justify that other than the voice that was in my spirit telling me, man, you made the wrong decision, you should have went home. So we rode, we got to the party, picked up a couple of cars on the way to the party. And when we got there, it was probably about 5 or 6 cars. A lot of people I didn't know, a lot of people I did know, and we were going to a young girl's birthday party. And she was gonna have a DJ and we were gonna rap. So while we were standing out in front of the driveway, waiting, there was an argument going on my right-hand side. And so, I wasn't really paying a lot of attention. I was just trying to figure out why we weren't able to go inside. So there was one of the guys that came from with us that I didn't know was arguing with somebody that was already at the party. Apparently, they didn't like him. He was intoxicated. They didn't want him in the party with that kind of energy. So the guy was kind of belligerent about it. He was real angry, and unbeknownst to any of us, he had brought a gun with him. So when they told him he couldn't come into the party, he went back to his car and he opened the trunk and he pulled out a semi-automatic rifle. He had a SK, well, I don't know if you know the terminology, but it was a semi-automatic rifle. So he pulled the semi-automatic rifle out of the trunk of the car, came back to the driveway, and just started shooting. And, that's when, for me, I don't know if any of y'all have ever seen the movie The Matrix, but there's a scene in The Matrix when Keanu Reeves, Neo, is fighting the agents, and everything slows down when they start shooting bullets at him, and he start doing the whole backwards thing. But literally, for me, time slowed down, and I saw the orange and blue shots from the rifle coming out. So right, I see like 1, 2, 3, and all the while, everything else is going slow motion. I feel like I'm going regular time speed. So I turn it around and I'm running away from, the gunshots. And, I get, I guess, like the midpoint across the lawn. And then I feel what felt like a bee sting in my leg. And I ran a couple more feet, then I fell. And, I got to the end of the driveway to where the cars were parked. Come to find out, I got shot through my right leg. The bullet completely severed the smaller bone in my leg, and then bullet fragments had popped off the ground in the driveway. It hit me in my wrist, and I still have a bullet fragment lodged in my left knee. So, we got in the car, everybody, was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Everybody's frantic, panicking, and I get to the hospital, and, of course, I'm okay, I'm just in a daze because it's like everything's moving so fast. But one of the things that I remember was the guy that pulled the gun out. I remembered him from school, and I always would pass by him and I used to be like, what's wrong with this guy? Like, what's his problem? Not like we had any problem between each other, but I always used to feel like he was going through something. I always used to feel like something was on his spirit. Like I would walk past him like, damn, what's wrong with this guy? I don't know him, I don't know his name, what's wrong with this guy? Later on, I found that he had a lot of emotional issues, and I always felt like, dang, if somebody would have reached out to him, maybe gave him some love, gave him some energy, gave him some camaraderie. Maybe it was somebody that wasn't in his life that, he felt like it was him against the world, or what have you. But, what struck me that night is while I was in the Chippenham Hospital in the triage unit, waiting to be seen by the doctors, I could hear the other victims, the other people that had been shot, different families were inside of the triage too. It was about 5 or 6 people that had got shot that night. The guy that was arguing with the other guy with the gun, he got shot in the face, so he died. 2 other people got shot, one guy got shot in the leg, another girl got shot in the arm. But the girl whose birthday party we were going to, she got shot in her heart. And so I was in the triage unit with her when I heard the flatline. You hear like the dee, 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 dee. And I never heard the sound of a mother really cry, but that night when I heard her mother crying for the loss of her daughter, it was the most heart-wrenching, it was the most horrible sound I ever heard in my life. And I always remember that could have been me, And so when I think back to, that night and I recall what happened, I always think about, when you get put in situations like that, your higher power, I don't know if anybody's atheist or what have you, whatever you call on, whether it be, the Most High, Jah, Allah, Jehovah, when you get put in situations where you have absolutely no control over the outcome and you survive, that there's a purpose for you to be here. There's a purpose for you to still be, walking. So I always look at that particular episode of my life as, God saved my life for a reason. I was, kept alive. A lot of people died. I don't know that young girl from nothing, but I'm sure, nobody deserved to get it. I know she wasn't expecting that for a birthday present. So I always look at that as a turning point for my life as to, trying to live with a higher purpose, live for others, do the most that I can to, impact the world, because I know that every second that we have on the planet is precious, and if we can give back to, change the lives of others, that's what we're here for. That's basically my story.
Good morning, everybody. My name is James Wilkins. I'm the pastor of Nehemiah House of Prayer here in Richmond, Virginia. And my story goes way back. I guess some of y'all looking at me and can tell that, right? Well, I got involved with peace education about a bit better than 4 years ago. I was doing volunteer work at the Williamson Center, where they had their offices. And I just came home from prison. I did over 12 years in state prisons here in Virginia. Most of my life was hazy because of the lifestyle that I lived from a very young age. Being a drug addict from the age of 13, which, all through my lifetime until I was incarcerated the last time in the penal system. I've been on both sides of the violence. I guess I was fortunate all the years of using guns and doing all kind of things with guns that was against the law, and I got away with it. But here in the last year, when I became a victim of gun violence through my granddaughter, now I did a lot of bad things in my life, and I'm blessed to have escaped. But last summer, when my granddaughter was shot in the head, I don't know if any of y'all saw the news, 11-year-old girl in Emporia, Virginia, who was riding a scooter. She was just out for a ride on a scooter. And she caught up, and she was shot by a .40 caliber to the back of the head. And in that moment, when I got the phone call, I was devastated. I just lost a father a few years before that. And when I got the call, I said, no, not my grandbaby. But it reminded me of something, that there's still a lot of work that's got to be done. My granddaughter's here with me today. She didn't want to talk, and that's understandable. But I thought it took a lot of courage for her to be here today with me in Richmond. Shadell is sitting right over here. We didn't know whether she would live again. I was the first one to get to the hospital when the helicopter brought her in, because I'm living here in Richmond, so I got here before any family. But to walk into the intensive care unit and see her there motionless, and couldn't speak, didn't know whether I was there or not, it really made an impact on me to strive even further for peace. I've been, like I said, I've been on both sides of the violence. And nothing really devastating happened to me violently. But I did some crazy things against other people in my lifetime. It caught up with me. And like I said, I went in the penal system. And even in there, the violence was still there. I met so many young people, 19 and 20 years old, in prison behind violence, gun violence. Got 300 or 400 years for murder. The rest of their life is just gone. They're walking around a fence all day long in one motion. Don't have any hope for a future. So with that, makes me understand that we have to reach out and bridge the gap between both generations, the old and the young. Because what I found out about when my granddaughter got shot, I went thinking about these guns in the street and how they got there. Well, a lot of us older ones put them in the street. We have to get to the street that the young people can get them in their hands. And we have to address that problem. Because if it was not for those that was bringing them, putting them in the street, a lot of young people wouldn't be able to assess them. The young man that shot my granddaughter, he was barely past 22 years old. Hadn't been out of jail but a few hours. And he assessed an automatic weapon like that. And never had a target practice in his life. He just pulled out a gun and started shooting down the street. And she was out just to have a good time. And was saying that, I'm persevering harder to reach out to you young people. Because it's going to be you who get the message out in the schools. and in your neighborhoods to your friends. We started doing an event in Emporia, Virginia once a year. It's called the Hope Festival. And I think this year would be even more significant why we do what we do. I'm finding that a lot of young people don't have any hope when you live in a certain environment, where it don't look like you're going to make it past, your area. And they just lose their hope. They don't have a hope for the future. So they look for other ways and means to satisfy that hunger inside of them to be more than who they are, and then they end up turning to the wrong people for that advice. Even when I was in prison, there was a lot of young people that would come and say, man, we in here, man, we looking for somebody to look up to. In here? Yeah, man, we still looking for somebody to look up to. And that's how a lot of them get involved in the gangs and in the drug activity in the street because they can't get it at home. So I heard a pastor say this once years ago, and Pastor T.D. Jakes, he said it takes a village to raise a child. We used to do that years ago in our neighborhoods. Your child was my child was your child. We've gotten away from that, the family. Right here, when I look around in this room, I see one big family. I see one big family when they were beating the drums and y'all meet new people, you was just standing there holding a conversation like you knew each other all your life. And that's family. That's what it's all about. But I'm on a mission today. I'm on a mission here in Richmond, Virginia, wherever I go, to spread the message of hope, love, and peace. I'm on the corner of Lowe's and Lombardi Street every morning with those downtrodden who really don't have a lot of hope. And I'm there to try to be a light to them who live in poverty and live in those type of environments who really don't have anything, and try to inspire them that they too can have that character inside of them, that they don't have to resort to negative activity. Because when I look at you and I think about my granddaughter, I don't want to see one of you laying in the street, an innocent victim of gun violence. Because you're my future. Without you, I have no tomorrow. You're going to be that one when I get old and can't do anything for myself. I'm going to depend upon you. I'm almost there now. But anyway, you're going to be it. When I look at you right now, I just want to embrace you. And if there's anything that we can do, that I can do, to help you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I want to do my best. I really am. Because now I have that desire, that drive in me to want to do better. See, I missed all of my youth. I missed it all on drugs and alcohol over 30 years. A lot of it is a blur. I don't remember most of it. So with that, we're going to open up for questions.
Yes.
And you have any questions, please ask.
Thank you very much. So we give it up for both of them. Two very compelling stories and very deep and touching, and we thank you all for being here today and sharing those stories with us. We really appreciate it. So we're going to open up the floor. Do we have any questions that anybody wants to ask? Anything that anybody wants to say? Nobody? Did anybody learn anything from these two stories? Now y'all learned something.
So after listening to all these stories, how are you feeling? How are you feeling?
Well, I feel really lucky for the life that I have, and I don't even know how you guys actually cope with those things. So how, Susie, what's your name, the one that got shot?
Duron.
Yeah. How do you cope with that afterwards? What do you do?
Just push for, it's hard. I don't really think about it as much as, I use it as an inspiration for myself. Like I said, knowing that there were other people there that were not as fortunate as me, who passed away. I look at that as there's a reason for me to be here, and I shouldn't waste the time that I have. know, I think about so many young men that don't have fathers, you know, so that inspired me to be a better father for my kids. Makes me, you know, want to be, you know, try to share some wisdom and talk to brothers who are out in the streets and things like that. I mean, I work in social services, so most of my day is consumed with dealing with individuals that are in poverty, don't have jobs, unemployed. So, you know, just trying to be real with people and try to use the time that I have on this planet to the best of my ability to serve.
We have one question over here.
I know that violence is not the answer, but how can we stop violence that is around us? Because there's so much of it.
I believe that, well, I can say Jesus was in the church. To try to build a relationship with that source that's greater than yourself. And being a light more so than what you can say to anybody would make a difference. Don't wait for other people to engage you. You be aggressive and engage them in showing the love and the hope and the peace that you have in your life, and let others see that light and begin to glorify because of that.
Yeah, I want to definitely jump on that and say that it's all about love. I think that as a society, we've become a lot less empathetic to other people. Empathy versus sympathy. Sympathy is feeling bad for somebody because of the situation that they're in. Empathy is looking at a person's situation and realizing yourself in it and seeing the similarities between yourself and them, and how would you feel if you were in that other person's shoes. We have to learn to show more compassion to each other. And we have to stop alienating one another based on our differences. We're a lot more alike than we are different. And when we start realizing that we're all on this planet together, we're all in these neighborhoods together, we're all in these schools together, we're all in these classes together, that's when we'll start seeing our oneness and our connectivity. And I think that is the key for reducing violence in the community, interpersonal violence. You know, violence is not just guns. You know, violence is insults. Violence is picking on somebody. Violence is seeing somebody who is hurt and not giving them some love and affection. You know, leaving people alone when they need someone to embrace them is violent. So there's all different types of violence on just small, minute scales that we inflict on each other every day. And then when it gets big and, you know, a gunshot rings off, we're like, oh. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. The things that went on that led up to that are what we can intervene on, you know, every day through our interpersonal interactions with each other.
All right, so that's going to wrap it up for this session. Let's thank them one more time for being here. All right, so we have a couple minutes, about 7, before we start the morning workshop.